Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Boofer County Historical Library. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to say that, well, I'm shocked and pleasantly surprised over the fact that I've finally hit 100 subscribers. I know it's not much, but this channel was only intended to scratch a creative itch for me and nothing more. I make a video whenever I feel like it and upload it for shits and giggles. I like haunted attractions, and I like talking about weird history. I guess there are people out there who like hearing about it. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the subscriptions and the comments. I appreciate them so much. Maybe later I'll look into making a more regular schedule and possibly some more and different content. Who knows? Looking at the numbers and comments, you all really enjoy the ancient Egypt stories. So why not tell another one? This time we're going to look at a story told in ancient Egypt about a prince who liked to push his luck. Oh, and the story of the doomed prince is going to piss you off. The tale of the doomed prince is an ancient story dating back to the 18th dynasty, so anywhere from 1550 to 1292 BCE. I mean, aside from suffering from polio and dodging crocodiles and weird-ass looking turtles, there wasn't a whole lot to do. The absolute boredom it created led to many different creative outlets being tapped. If you've seen my previous episode on Horus and Set, that explains a lot. Storytelling was the least expensive outlet, so there were a lot of really interesting stories created around that time.
And not just in Egypt, but y'all don't give a shit about those stories.
Ignore him, he only likes to talk about true crime and fart jokes. Our story begins with the king of Egypt, or chief, or general. Who this guy is depends on who is telling the story. Just keep in mind that this guy is high-ranking, and like most rich people who have everything, something is missing from his life. And also, like most rich boomer pieces of shit, he's decided to fill that hole with the sun. He prayed daily for the gods to grant him a kid. So the gods granted his wish. The king got a son, and as most older generations like to do, instantly took this kid to get assigned a destiny that the kid had no say in whatsoever.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
The kid went before the 7 Hathors and was told,
"You're gonna die, probably by a snake, or a dog, or a crocodile, I guess."
Now, of course, this wasn't the best news to hear for the king or for the young prince. So, being your typical helicopter parent, the king had a palace built in the mountains, shoved the prince in there faster than Vince McMahon shoving his dick in an intern, and locked the door.
So at this point, you're probably saying, Lee, Egypt didn't have kings. They had pharaohs, which is true after Narmer united Upper and Lower Egypt. But a lot of people believe that this story dates back to before all of that. So it dates back to a time when Egypt was ruled over by a bunch of different kings instead of just one pharaoh.
As with most kids who are stuck inside all day, the prince eventually got bored with palace life and started looking outward at the people below. One day he saw a guy playing with a dog, and he begged his father to get him one. Now the king, remembering what was foretold about the boy's fate, wasn't too keen on the idea. But the prince kept pestering him, and eventually the king relented.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Surprisingly though, the prince loved the dog, and they became fast companions that spent years together. Wherever the prince went, the dog was there as well.
Okay, so it's one anecdotal situation, but that does not change things.
If you've ever known a person that grew up a sheltered child, you should know what happens next. The kid eventually grew into a man, and having spent his life in the palace, wanted to see the world.
But son,
The king said,
if you go out, you'll die. I don't know when or which one of the three ways it'll happen, but you'll die.
Dad?
The prince said,
I don't know if you know this, but people die all the fucking time. And I would prefer to die out there, enjoying my life, than sitting here, bored out of my gourd until I'm an old man. Besides, one of those ways that I'm supposed to die is by a dog.
and with that, the prince packed up some clothes, his dog, and I'm assuming a box of fruit by the foot or something, and went out to face his destiny. Pretty soon he came to a land known in Egypt as Naharin.
Or Mitanni, or Hittite, or Henegobat, or Henarabat. But none of that matters now, because the area now goes by Syria, and would prefer that you not use its dead names, please.
While in this land, the prince came upon a group of guys that were trying to climb a wall. After figuring out that at the top of this wall was a princess waiting for someone to win her hand.
Why is that a thing? I mean, like the whole prove yourself to the princess so that she'll fall in love with you thing. I don't understand that. That's a story trope that's been around since, well, the 18th dynasty. I've always had a hard time believing it. So, why is that a thing?
The prince looks up at this wall and says, yeah, cool, I could do that. And Spider-Man crawls right up the wall to the open arms of the princess. But when she takes him to her dad, he's not happy about his daughter marrying a commoner.
Because the prince lied about where he came from. He said that he was the son of a chariot driver. Why? Why do rich kids say dumb shit?
But this king eventually lightens up when the princess pulls an aerial and allows them to marry. After they're married, the prince comes clean and tells the princess who he is and how he was destined to die in some incredibly vague way. Which was a good idea because that night the first of his fates came calling when a snake was able to sneak into their room. In reply, the princess went straight up Yandere on the snake. Destiny 0, Prince 1. A few years later, the prince decided to go for a walk with his good friend, the dog. While walking, the dog started talking out of nowhere, which for some reason isn't surprising to the prince, considering they've been friends for almost a decade now, and the dog has never talked until this point.
Hey man, you know how we've been friends for a long ass time? Been through so much together, and we've had each other's backs all this time?
Oh yeah, you're my dog.
Well, fuck you. I'm gonna kill you now.
After hearing this weird-ass betrayal, the prince takes off running and runs right into a crocodile. The croc announces that he's going to kill the prince, because apparently animals can suddenly talk now. It snatches up the prince and drags him to the bottom of the Nile. But when they get down there, the crocodile tells the prince that if he helps the croc to fight an evil water spirit, it'll let him go.
Oh, this is getting all kinds of whacked out. I want to see how this ends.
Yeah, me too.
What?
Remember when I said in the beginning that this episode was going to piss you off? Well, we're at that part now. You see, the archaeologists that found the papyrus that the story was documented on lived next to a gunpowder factory, and the ending was lost in an explosion that destroyed the house. Yeah, that's it. Some scholars have guessed at the ending, and some writers have tried to make up endings that could fit, but the fact of the matter is that we will never actually know what happens to the prince because some old English people thought Egyptian artifacts were safer in their homes.
Okay, now that is a bunch of bullshit. And let me tell you why.
Thanks for watching. And once again, thanks for helping get me to 100 subscribers. I really appreciate all the love that everyone has shown. And you could definitely look forward to the next episode of History 10 What the Fuck.